Today's showcase will be moderated by Bradley Bailyn. Brad is an NYU alum and president of the NYU Alumni Entrepreneurship Network. He's a leading corporate attorney and litigator working primarily with small and medium-sized businesses in the technology and construction industries in New York City. Previously, he was co-founder and general counsel for multiple highly successful digital ventures, including one of the largest interactive children's entertainment websites in the world, the first and largest online sculpture gallery, and one of the biggest SEO companies in America. Brad, at this time, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. I am very excited to be meeting the amazing entrepreneurs that we have tonight. I'm sorry, not tonight, this afternoon. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a brief pitch for the NYU Alumni Entrepreneurs Network. We put on educational and networking events for entrepreneurs who graduated from NYU. We are all about radical inclusion and encouraging everybody to feel less lonely and more educated on the path to entrepreneurship. We have speakers, we have specialized networking. We're going to be putting on a conference for for entrepreneurs who are looking for co-founders. Really, there's so much opportunity here. I'm going to put my information into the chat box. If you want to learn more or you have some ideas for getting involved with the alumni network, let me know and we will make it happen. Without further ado, I give you BotFactory.
Hi, Brad. Let me share my screen first. Let's zoom it. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. So hi everyone. My name is Nico. I'm one of the co-founders here and CEO at BotFactory. And I'd like to share with you a little bit more about BotFactory, who we are, and our journey so far. BotFactory is developing desktop 3D printers for electronics. And we have 300 beta customers all around the world, including Fortune 500 companies. We work with the DoD as well as universities everywhere. So, why would you want to 3D print a circuit board? Well, a circuit board is in anything that has a battery typically will have one of these small green boards in it. If you open your phone, your car, or your computer, the problem is that making them is a very long and expensive process. And because you need a lot of iterations to get anything done, you're just accumulating these delays and costs. The factories that make them have a dozen $500,000 machine that will use acid and a bunch of chemical processes in order to get the board done. So at BotFactory, we designed a process that's completely additive instead of using acid. So we print pretty much like your HP printer at home. We print conductive and insulating inks to create a 3D PCB board, and then we apply small dots of conductive epoxy where the components are going to be placed, and then finally we pick and place the components and place them on the machine. So this is a small portable machine sitting on a desk essentially. So we wanted to shrink the entire factory into a very small machine. And the big advantage of using a technology like this is that it allows you to develop a lot faster. It takes about a day to do 2 weeks worth of work with a machine like ours because you just don't have to wait for your board to get fabricated. Another thing is that we're allowing our customers to really improve their operational readiness and helping bring the manufacturing back from Asia, where today 80% of the PCBs are manufactured. So, stories like the DoD having to fly someone from Egypt to JFK to pick up a circuit board, to then bring it to Germany, all of this in under 8 hours because they needed to have a plane ready to fly, means that, a board that costs $50,000 can end up costing $1 million just because you need it somewhere specific really, really quickly. So these are the kind of things that we're working on and helping our customers do. And finally, we have the ability to print circuit boards that are impossible to make today. There was a lot of craze with smart currency recently, so we made our own Bitcoin, which is essentially a circuit board printed on top of a coin. We have printed on textiles for smart clothing, and so on and so forth. So a lot of different applications that are not possible with the system today. Let's talk about how we got there, because I think that this is mostly what people are here for. So the company started with 4 NYU grads and another one that's not from NYU. I myself have an electrical engineering degree from Tandon. My co-founder Carlos, computer engineering, and then George is an electrical engineer, PhD. And finally, Michael Knox, who's a professor still at Tandon. This is really how we got started. Carlos and I were in a class where we had to design an EEG system, so essentially a brainwave reader. And it took a long time just to learn, how biosignals worked and how to create the system. And there were 8 teams in the class. We all, sent our boards for manufacturing, and out of the 8 teams, only 1 could make it on time. We got really lucky. Could make it on time for the deadline because it just took so long for the manufacturer to build them. And if you had made any mistakes, you had to reorder them, and then you were too late for the deadline. So you can see on the right side, our final prototype with the box that was taped on top of a hat. To get that board manufactured. So after that class, Carlos and I got thinking that there were a lot of 3D printers coming out of the woodwork for mechanical engineering and designers, but there was really nothing for electrical engineering. And so at the same time, there was the innovation competition that was starting. And we got together with Mike Knox and a friend to see if, hey, could we apply for the competition and see if there's any interest for what we're doing. So the great thing about the innovation competition was that they were giving us money to build the product as we were pitching it. So it was not just business questions. As engineers, that really struck a chord, and we really wanted to participate with that. We reverse engineered an Ultimaker. We stole a compressor from the lab for temporarily, and it was hidden under the table you see there on the right side. And we managed to win the competition, and really saw that there was a huge interest, not just from the maker movement, but also from industry and other people. So that's really how we got started, and we decided, okay, let's take a gamble and try to get this company going. So right after that, we joined the NYU Summer Launch Pad, which was really challenging because as I mentioned, we were really focused on the product, and pretty much for the duration of the Summer Launch Pad, they encouraged us not to touch the product at all and really focus on the business side. We learned a lot about the different aspects of the business, and making sure that we could very quickly and inexpensively verify the assumptions that we had about the business. One of those experiments was what we called the Proto-Cheetah. You can see it on the right side. It was a fake website that was essentially putting out what was in our head the ultimate product, what we wanted to build. And we wanted to test, are people interested in printing the circuit, in assembling a circuit, or they want to do everything? And so in about a couple of days, we posted this everywhere. We had 300 visits from mostly engineers, and saw that the demand was really not just for printing, but also for the assembly. And that really made us understand better what people were looking for, in that, yes, there's a real demand for something like that. People are ready to pay for it. Give us more confidence that we were on the right track. So after that, after the innovation competition, we pretty much got into our basement, stayed there for 6 months building the product based off of the feedback from customers, and then ran out of money. So we had a choice, and we decided to go on Kickstarter to try to finance the product. And so after 40 days of no social life whatsoever, we managed to raise $100,000 on it. Got a lot more feedback in those early evangelists that have been using the product. It was an incredible experience, and really one of the things we learned the most was that the success of your campaign mostly depend on the work you put before it even starts. That was we were, I guess, naive to think that, we just put it out there and everything will work out fine. So, since 2013, when we started drafting something on paper for the intervention, we've come a long way. We have a much more professional looking product at this point in time that's capable of printing much more complex circuits. And, it's been an incredible ride. I think that, one of the most important things for all of us is that the team that we were with has been extremely strong in, staying together for 8 years in what's really a roller coaster has been a tremendous experience. And then we learn still every day on working together. Since the product, just to give you a quick overview, we've pretty much released 3 different versions of the product where we raised about $2 million since, primarily from a seed round in 2016. And we're currently really working with big partners, the Air Force, Cornell, the Army Research Lab, and some other companies to really bring this technology to the next level. We're 8 years in, still working on that product market fit that is the holy grail of every company. So yeah, this is, we've done a lot in those 8 years, but there's still a lot more to go for us. This is hardware is hard, but it's really fascinating and really, I couldn't be surrounded by better people. And, again, most of us met at NYU, which is a great place to find co-founders and people to work with. So thank you.
Thank you very much. What a fantastic presentation and what a fantastic company. We have time for one question here. Does anybody want to ask it live or type it in? All right,
yes.
if we
yes.
don't,
I do.
I'm sorry,
do
Frank, go on.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. You've used apparently the labs, the entrepreneurship labs that we have at Tandon. Can you give me your experience as a group? How was it? How easy was it to get into it? What were the lines? Was it difficult to do the product, use the equipment, the 3D printers and all of that stuff? Can you describe your experience?
Yeah, I mean, that was back in 2013. So I know things are very, very different today. The labs so the eLab really got started, I believe around the time that we were at the innovation competition, or if memory is not wrong, or maybe they just renovated, I'm not sure. It was mostly the labs at Tandon where I was a GA in one of those labs. So we were working on different projects for like I mentioned, the EEG system for the prevention of seizures. There was another project where we worked on a dental device in order to help firefighters get located within a burning building. So there was a lot of different projects that we were working on with different professors at the time, and really having those connections to those professors and access to those labs where we could pretty much just build a prototype has been tremendously helpful. There was the gaming lab at the time that we asked to borrow their 3D printer for a little bit, get some time on it that we could use to build the really first pieces. So yeah, it's access to assets like that are obviously an immense help when it's just time to prove a concept, when you just need to get something started, and buying a 3D printer is outside of most people's budgets. So yes, very helpful.
All right, thank you so much, Nico. It was an amazing presentation. It would be great to have you speak for a full hour for the Entrepreneurs Organization. Even that wouldn't be enough. With that being said, the next presentation is going to be by We Are the New Farmers. Welcome, Jonas.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I think, Nico, you got to stop your screen share. Yes. Before I start sharing my screen, so you can actually see me. Hi, I'm Jonas, originally from Germany, came to New York in 2016 for my master's degree at Tandon, studied management of technology, graduated in 2018. Today, I am CEO and co-founder of We Are the New Farmers, which originated at NYU. And I'm also founder in residence at the Leslie Entrepreneurship Lab, where I'm mentoring basically younger entrepreneurs who are just getting started on their journey. But today I'm going to talk a little bit more about We Are the New Farmers. Let me see. Can you give me a thumbs up when you see the screen? Is that working? Perfect. Yeah, so We Are the New Farmers. We are an urban farm. We're located in Brooklyn in Sunset Park, and we have dedicated ourselves to the cultivation of microalgae. The reason for that is probably most of you have heard at some point in the last couple of years, our food system is pretty broken. It's making us sick. It's making us obese. It's not as nutritious. It's not delivering the food as nutritious as it should be. And it's also a major contributor to climate change. And that's something that we wanted to tackle head on. Now my screen's not moving forward. Here we go. And we decided to do that by dedicating ourselves to the cultivation of microalgae. Microalgae are basically smaller versions of the seaweeds like kelp or nori. They're literally microscopic. And microalgae such as spirulina are among the most powerful and all-natural plant-based foods that we have. Why would you believe me when you can believe some of the major institutions around the world? NASA has been doing research on spirulina for decades. They actually look at spirulina as one of the foods they want to grow in long-distance space travel because it's so easy to cultivate with few resources and delivers everything that humans need to eat. USDA, United Nations, is continuously talking about spirulina as the best food for the future, but also more customer-facing organizations such as Whole Foods are mentioning spirulina again and again as one of the top 10 food trends for the future. Now you wonder, why is that not something that has caught on a little bit more if it's been talked about so much? Well, the reason for that is quite simple. Today, microalgae are held back by a couple of different things. First and foremost, the products that are in the market are typically pretty bad products. They're sold as like difficult to use powders that have a very strong fishy flavor and a lot of bitterness. And it's really only something you would find in the nutrient supplement aisle as something that people would add to juices and smoothies. And the reason for that is because it's grown mostly overseas in those large ponds that you see here in the pictures. They're outdoors. They can only be located where it's really warm, and they're very prone to contamination. They're open to the air, so anything can fall into those tanks. So you often end up with a low quality product. And lastly, you need tropical climates to grow this type of algae. So typically you find this in Southeast Asia. And to get this to Western kitchens, to kitchens in New York City or anywhere in the US, you need to dry out the product and then ship it thousands of miles to the end customer. And that is something that we are changing. Our solution is to grow spirulina locally and offer it as a fresh ingredient. So first of all, our products look very different. We have very innovative products that are fresh, perishable, real foods rather than dried powders. Fresh spirulina doesn't have any of the weird bitterness that people associate with it. Tastes a lot better, and it's a lot more flexible. And because it's a whole food, our body can absorb the nutrients much better. We've developed during our time at NYU, but also after, a modular production system, which allows us to grow spirulina pretty much anywhere, including in Brooklyn, which is not known for its tropical climate. And lastly, our localized distribution system allows us to really bring down our greenhouse gas emissions when it comes to getting the product to customers, and allows us also to be a lot more, have a much higher quality product, a fresher product compared to something that needs to be shipped around the globe. Our team is relatively small still. We're a team of 3 people, 3 founders. Dan Bernstein is the only one who's not an NYU alumni. I'm the CEO of the company. I met Michael, who's our farmer-in-chief, or CTO, during my first year at NYU, and he's been developing the prototypes with us ever since, and he's still responsible for the entire cultivation process in our pilot farm in the Brooklyn Army Terminal in Sunset Park. Yeah, it all started in the makerspace a couple of years ago when we walked into the makerspace. It was like literally the first day of the grand opening of the makerspace when I walked in there with an idea in my head that I wanted to grow something and do something about food. And someone who was featured in an earlier presentation already, Mike Knox, was the person who greeted me there and set me up on the path that eventually led to the foundation of We Are the New Farmers. Over the course of these 2 years, we've developed various prototypes, starting with what you see on the left side, a grow unit for lettuces and arugula inside of a fridge, and eventually moved on to an entire indoor farm that we built in the basement of the makerspace, and which is still in operation today. This urban food lab is something that's that served as a learning platform for a lot of students, not only for us when we built the system, but we always invited other students to do their own research in this kind of platform, because a lot of students at NYU, they study biology or chemistry, so not necessarily just the computer science part. And this served as an integration between between sustainability, between food, but also between tech, and allowed a lot of students to do their own projects, from growing plants to create their own perfume, to the analysis of bacteria growing inside fish tanks and inside those grow systems. And eventually led to an actual class that's been taught in this little urban farm lab. By now, I graduated from school. I'm not involved with that anymore. And today we're running We're the New Farmers. We've been selling to customers all around the United States and continue to grow. And yeah, that was my quick introduction to We Are the New Farmers.
Thank you very much. What a fascinating business. I always wondered when you're on the airplane and you see those huge ponds, what those are. Oh, I actually know. So does anyone from the audience have questions for Jonas? No one has one. I'm going to go on, please.
Sorry, this is Richard from NYU alum as well, also from Tandon. So Jonas, actually, when I was, always passing by the building, I actually saw that space because I'm also class of 2018. So I think there's been a few years of an overlap. So it was very interesting to see. I was always curious what's going on in there, but good to hear. How'd you get started on, funding and all, getting started, engaging with investors, if any, getting sponsorship and support?
Yeah. I always like to say I try to make the most out of my time at NYU by trying to tap into every single grant opportunity that NYU had to offer. We started out pretty small with prototyping grants that the Tandon and the Entrepreneur Lab was providing, with like $500 or $1,000 to build the very small first prototypes. We eventually got grants from the Office of Sustainability, a green grant that would enable us to build this experimental farm in the basement. When we graduated, or when I graduated from school, we became part of the NYU Accelerator program, which came with a grant from the NSF to help us get started. And eventually we were able to approach angel investors and friends and family. And up to date, we've raised a little over $600,000 to operate our farming facility.
Thank you.
All right, other questions?
What is it that what is it that you exactly sell to your customers right now? The technology or actually product?
The actual product. So we sell fresh frozen spirulina, which is something that a lot of our customers use in their breakfast. It's extremely dense in micronutrients and vitamins, excellent source of plant-based protein. And the best way to describe it is really it's a dark green paste that people add to a yogurt bowl, that people add to the overnight oats, that they add to smoothies and juices, and that basically provides them with the nutritional foundation of their day.
And where can we get it? And what's the cost? And is it scalable on your side?
So we are currently a e-commerce business. So you can go to our website, new-farmers.com. You can see it here on the left side of the slide as well.
Right.
And can place an order and we ship it straight to your door. In addition to that, we are in multiple farmers markets all around New York City to serve our local audience. And soon we'll be expanding into juice shops and smoothie shops all around actually the Northeast. So yeah, this business is very scalable. We are like our entire technology has been created with that in mind because we want to make sure that we can open up facilities in multiple locations around the United States. We are now working on our second facility here in New York City, which will have significantly higher output than what we have right now. And in addition to that, we also already set the ground in California, where you can imagine there's also a very interested market for this kind of product. So those two locations will be next.
I want to congratulate you also on your approach to allowing students of different disciplines to come in and learn from your experimentations and collaborate with you, because the whole integration of Tandon with the rest of the NYU world is one of the things that has attracted me to the merger.
Yeah, I think it was one of the most interesting times during NYU. We were at one point a little over 15 people that were working at the same time in this room from 3 different schools, not only departments at NYU, but from 3 different schools, which you know about the special location of Tandon, so it's not that easy to convince someone to come from Washington Square over to Tandon. But we somehow made it happen, and people were doing simple tasks, just like cleaning the farm and like harvesting some of the stuff to take it home, like some herbs or some leafy greens, all the way to conducting their own research and like running their own projects. And my partner back then, Omar Gwayet, who did a doctor's degree and a PhD degree, he was running this while after I graduated and turned it into a full-blown course. So students could decide to take 4 credit classes in there. They had to basically submit a project at the beginning of the semester where they said, hey, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to dedicate my time for the next couple of months. And if they would complete this project, they would get actually credits for this, which I find absolutely amazing, because I would have never imagined that like some little project would turn into something that like lots of students around NYU would go towards and actually like follow their dreams and follow their passions.
Fantastic. I want to wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, if there's not other questions, then I will ask you one. So, something that I know from personal experience as an attorney who works with these kind of small businesses is that people hear about these raises, these capital raises, and like, wow, they just stepped on gold. It was so easy for them. And in reality, it's just like, punch in the gut after punch in the gut, and you manage to get through it and still succeed. So would you mind sharing a difficult problem that you've had and how you overcame it?
Fundraising is one of the most difficult things you can do, especially, I was telling you where I was coming from and how the life looked like back at NYU Tandon when we were developing all these kind of projects. And I had a very idealistic approach to this. And it's like, I want to grow this and this is good for the world. So people should be like investing in this, right? And over time, you realize you can't be sustainable without financial sustainability. got to build the foundations around this. And that's a long walk to go, and it's not always an easy one because sustainability and financial success are not always aligned. So you got to negotiate that with yourself as well as with your team. What's the best way forward? Fundraising is with a complex project is the one that we have complicated. It's not always easy, and most importantly, it's like never the story that you read, that the TechCrunch headline, burger robot company raises 3 million seed round within 2 weeks. That's never the full story, and I encourage, like, whenever I talk to younger entrepreneurs or people that are interested in the journey, to be very frank with that and like realize it's going to be tough and it's going to be really, really hard. And you feel good when you succeed, but like this, no matter how much money is on the street, it's never going to be easy.
Thank you. I appreciate your honesty in sharing that. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to just start talking. We still have a few minutes to either start talking or type your question into the chat if you're shy.
Sure. Well, I'm not shy. So I'm gonna fantastic presentation, Jonas. I'm going to contrast that question that Bradley posed. What experience did you have that was easier than you anticipated along your journey? Bradley mentioned, difficulty along the way, but what sort of surprised you with how easy it may have been?
I'm not sure there was something that surprised me as being easier than I thought it would be, but I think one thing that is a constant inspiration and motivation for us is when we hear back from customers and they share their feedback voluntarily, not like, don't send them an email and ask for feedback, but people like literally just reaching out and telling you how much they love the product, how much they appreciate what you do, is something that, like, when things get difficult and when like something breaks or like, or whatever it is that on this particular day made your day hard, and someone reaches out and is just telling you like how much it means that you do all of this, that is really something that keeps you going. And to that point, I didn't really expect people to do that as much. Like, I rarely reach out to companies and tell them, I love you guys, thanks so much for doing this. It's not like how I am, but it's something that is very much appreciated and helps us get over the humps.
Very good. There's tremendous success ahead. Keep going.
Thank you.
So are there any fantastic mentors you've had that you want to give a shout out to and thank?
I think I can go straight towards the Leslie E Lab here and can say that without the team at the Leslie E Lab, we wouldn't be where we are today. We've been part of the accelerator program right after I graduated, which helped us figure out how to turn a school project into an actual business. Throughout the 3 years since we graduated from that, they've been constant mentors for us with all questions related to fundraising or, co-founder dynamics, those kind of things. And up until today, we have a very, very good relationship with them. And yeah, those are quite honestly our heroes. They've done a lot of work for us.
Thank you. We hear a lot of very excellent things about the Leslie E Lab.
Yeah, they do fantastic work.
That's what I hear. If there's not any further questions, I'll throw out one more. If someone wanted to go into, I can ask you questions all day. It's so interesting what you do. If someone wanted to go into the same kind of industry that you're in, and they were a freshman, they're younger, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I touched upon that a little bit earlier, and that is particularly in food, there's a lot of idealism and about a lot of like, let's save the world mentality, and that's great, and that's the best motivation you can have. But you got to realize that you got to run a business, and you got to realize that you, apart from thinking about what's good for the world, you also need to understand how food economics work in this country and generally. I always like to say everyone can grow food. There's nothing difficult about it. Otherwise, we would be extinct by now. Now getting a UPS delivery here. So no, there's nothing difficult about growing food. Otherwise, we would be extinct. But it's very difficult to grow food economically and efficiently, and that's a business. And so when you look at your business that you're looking at, is there, or when you look at the idea, is there a feasible pathway to actually make this a business, or should this remain a hobby? Which is a question that, in my opinion, not enough people ask themselves when they get started.
So who figured out how to do this economically? The gentleman who's your chief grower, or all of you combined?
All of us combined. I mean, there are like multiple things to doing something economically, right? Like we have technology that is amazing, that allows us to grow year round and much higher quality product that no one's doing that way in the United States. But then there's the second component, that's the commercialization of a product like this. Like you need to create a market for this. You need to find your customers, and as I'm sure the guys from BotFactory know very well, you can have a great idea and a great product, but in the end, you also need to figure out how to sell this and how do you find your market. And so all of this makes a successful company, and there's not one component alone that can make you successful.
So yeah, I'm hearing a lot about economics.
Can I ask one last question?
And this will be the last question, please.
Okay. Can I benefit? I'm crossing the Atlantic on a sailboat. Can I benefit in being one of your test user of the product for 3, 4, 5 weeks at sea?
You meaning like eating our product while you're at sea?
Yeah.
If you have a way of keeping it frozen, yeah, absolutely.
Just frozen.
Yeah, the fresh product has a shelf life of about 2 weeks. So think of it like leafy greens that you buy at the supermarket. Good food goes bad. That's our theme.
Beautiful. Okay, great. So I have a whole industry to introduce you
to. Love to get in touch with you. I'll send you my email over chat after this.
Sure.
All right, well, Jonas, thank you so much for your time and for the good that you do for this world. I can't wait to see where the company goes and grows in the future.
Quite literally.
Yes, literally, quite literally. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce Antonio from Mutable, who will be doing our next presentation.
Hey, how's it going? Actually, let me do the same thing. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So I'm Antonio Pellegrino. Most of you that know me, I go by Pelly, and I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called Mutable. My roots in NYU and the entrepreneurship community there go very, very deep. I was definitely part of the whole initial wave when we started the Entrepreneurship Labs. Steve Kuyan, Frank Romanowski, and all those guys. Bruce really picked up the ball as we were making the change from NYU or Poly at the time to NYU Poly, which is now Tandon, and I'll go through that in a bit. But that amount of time that I spent with that family, more or less, of all those companies and the incubators and everything else, definitely led for us to be here and be part of this. So with that in mind, let me give you a brief overview of Mutable, and then I'll go into the journey a bit. So if you want to break down this crazy idea of what we're trying to do, Mutable has seen what we've been promised the last 20 years. Everything from smart cities, VR, autonomous drones, all these things. We're doing a Zoom call right now, right? And these things have been advancing over time, but a lot of these big things that we've been promised have never reached mass market yet, or on the cusp of. And that's a lot to do with how engineers of hardware makers, especially a bunch of people at Poly, have viewed the internet and its infrastructure and how it can support building applications and devices. And what we realized going through this process of working with autonomous vehicles, working with wireless charging for cars, working with people doing drones, VR on the cloud, is that the only way to really make this work is to reshift how the internet is built, not replace the internet, of course not make it completely new. But what if instead of having all the servers where all the applications run be centralized, what if they were inside of your cable and telco company just 25 miles away, where the response time is instant? And at that point, all these things that are incredibly expensive can now be cheap, dumb devices that are just inputs and outputs and have all the compute done near real time on the edge. And that's really where we come in. We're just, if you look at the internet and see it as one big tree and you have this whole big trunk, and that's where all the cloud resources are today, what if they were moved to, you know, the branches or even the leaves? And that's really what we're working towards and making possible. A lot of this stuff with 5G, actually, a lot of 5G testing was done at NYU Poly. And with that in mind, these experiences of moving the internet faster on the access network, meaning the technologies that make it reach the internet, has been proving drastically over the past few years. But where that compute is placed is the big differentiator. And that's what we're working with these cable and telco companies, enterprises, and putting them in the right spot. So that way we can enable these things to happen and reduce the barrier of entry to be able to be part of this. And being a startup, that's the biggest thing you need, is to try and remove that barrier of entry to get access to things that typically only the big guys do. Now, if you take this at a more massive scale, we're basically creating like an Airbnb for servers. We're taking existing compute that the cable and telco companies have, enterprises, and all the way up to the cloud, and making one big orchestration out of it. And you can consider that kind of like a one big computer. You deploy it once and it deploys wherever it needs to go. And that's what we've been working on for too many years. We've iterated multiple times, but to give you some more direct ideas of how this influences you on a day-to-day basis, you know, for example, us working with a CDN company, by putting that inside of the operator footprint, you know, right now you do a game download that's 70 gigs, it takes you 2 hours when it should take you 5 minutes, right? You're paying for the gigabit. But the way the cable companies and telcos have their network set up, it's kind of like a gym membership model, right? Where you have 5,000 households that are all promised a gigabit, but they only have 100 gigabit going back. And so by moving these things into the right spot before those bottlenecks, we're able to enable, you know, that 5-minute download to happen all the time, right? Same thing with game servers, right? What if you put the game server in the middle of wherever the people are playing, right? And that could be localized inside of a community for a local tournament, or it could be, you know, nationwide, and you're just putting it in the center so everyone gets equal latency, right? That's the biggest problem. It's about the difference in latency that makes everyone have a bad experience. We've ran this right now at a cable company and put this inside their network, and it was incredibly drastic on how much it improved their experience. So much so that this actual gamer was able to have his experience as good as, even better than, his own computer. And this is a pro Counter-Strike player. Those are the most fickle, you know, trying to have the best quality possible, and being on the remote edge of just 10 milliseconds, he was able to achieve that. That means that you can play, and I'm sure you've all heard of Stadia and things like that, being able to play these high quality games on your phones, on your TV, on cheap laptops or Chromebooks, and have a great experience, right? And, you know, essentially that's what we're trying to do by making these things more mass market. Why do you need to have a console carried with you or have the most expensive thing when you can just rent it when you need to, right? And you can look at his scores, literally drastically better from what he was doing by playing, you know, further away or closer. And that doesn't just go with cloud gaming, it's also cloud VR. When we talk about cloud VR, we're talking about those, you know, normally you have to get the $1,000 headsets plugged into the $1,200 or $2,500 PCs. Instead, you have a $300 headset, you get Oculus Quest 2, you connect it to the internet, and voila, you can play the most high quality games or have the most best experience you can have with low latency latencycycy. And we've done this example with even my wife playing Beat Saber, and she kicked ass for sure. I am, of course, from NYU Poly. It was the business technology management. I did everything from esports streaming and building developer tools over this time, but also Adam, who's joined our team. He was actually part of Poly during digital media, and was fantastic there. We are very, very diverse and distributed. We're across 8 different countries. We're growing to 18, and that's going to double very quickly, and very focused on trying to build an engineering team that is trying to solve these complex problems. This is one of the trips that we had over in Cyprus as a team group. We were literally in the clouds. To give you a sense of the scope of what could take advantage of this and companies that we're starting to deal with, everything from AR, VR, autonomous vehicles, IoT, gaming in particular, everything is able to take advantage of moving their parts of the application closer to the end user to improve that customer experience and really drive these new technologies to life. Let me cycle back a little bit, right? We weren't always mutable, and we weren't always the same color as we are now. I was part of NYU Poly as it was back then, just during the beginning of the transition. And I was building this company, which was actually streaming at the time. I actually streamed the Entrepreneurship Festival. What was it, back in 2000, maybe 13 or so. And we were doing that as circles, essentially trying to make a platform for people to have collaborative, project management and creation, and did that with the real-time streaming to really have something incredibly interactive. And we were part of actually the Future Labs before it was the Future Labs, both in Brooklyn. They had a thing in Dumbo as well as one in Varick Street. During this process, we were totally different than what we are today in terms of understanding the differences of going inside this, where you're around all these entrepreneurs all trying to do their own things, trying to take advantage of the support system of the people around you, was incredibly valuable. What you learn at this point is that being an entrepreneur is hard, it's stressful, it's emotional. The idea of a roller coaster is a complete understatement. Building a network is everything. Your support structure is what's going to drive you to keep on going. And this will take a decade of your life if this is something that you really have the conviction for. And raising money in that process, you have to really focus down on what you're trying to do and bring that to life, not trying to sell them what they want to hear. That's the only way you're going to get basically a marriage of who you get investment from is basically with you for life in this journey. I've done everything from help the Entrepreneurship Club and be part of the incubators and try and run some of these programs at the same time as being the entrepreneur who at one point stayed in the incubator for a month on a couch without anyone finding out, doing the couch surfing for, I would say, over 2 years between people, to now having a house in Colorado that I just moved last year. This thing will totally blindside you on all the different things that you can experience. And the people along the way, even though they might seem very small now, build those relationships, because in the future, you never know, that one connection away can really change the trajectory of what you're up to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You said Pelly is how your friends refer to you. So since we're all your friends, we'll refer to you that way.
There you go.
You finished off by speaking emphatically about how important your network has been, which begs the question, who are the most important people in your network and what have they done for you?
Yeah. So it's one of those things that some of them are people that you start out with and, you get help a little bit along the way, and some that you don't realize and they help you a lot longer in the future. A great example, Steve Kuyan, who runs the Future Lab, I've known for close to a decade. And during that process, we've helped each other out in different ways, but even now he's trying to help us raise our next round, right? And trying to use the alumni and everything to come together to try and make this happen. There are people like Dan Cador from Keen.io. He literally, we talked maybe a few times, but the introductions that he made to some of the biggest players that I now talk to on a monthly basis have really changed the direction of the company, but also the network that I'm now part of on top of what I was before. When I was doing, I went through Techstars in New York, and that's really where I got met Dan Cador. I met the CEO of Firebase, the CEO, the founder of SendGrid, all these founder of GitHub, all these amazing people. And you don't really, it's really hard to take advantage of everything right then and there because you don't have the foresight of what exactly you're going to need in the future. And usually when you're getting started, you're so into the grind that everything is blindsided. And just keeping up with those connections and keeping everyone up to date of what's going on, even doing a every quarter an update, not just on the company, but you personally with everyone, really gets everyone involved, and you find really good help in that process.
Thank you for that great information. Are there some questions from the audience? I'm waiting for Frank to chime in.
I'm
All
sorry
right.
I'm sorry to ask all these questions, but what struck me with what you're doing is the issue of failure and mistakes. And you've been through a lot of them, and I don't know one successful entrepreneur who hasn't gone through a bunch of them. Just describe you went through a number of iterations.
Yeah.
What motivates you, and how difficult is it to keep yourself focused focused and flexible to adjust and change and regroup?
Yeah, this is what I was saying before. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. This is not a fun little journey. It will drain you in every way. Being emotionally, stress, money, your reliance on people and support. It will drain you. But I'm one of those type of people that when I see something and I have that vision, I'm going to hold on to it, and I have that conviction. Now, the problem with a startup is it's not just about you. It's not just about your execution. It's not just about who you know. It's about timing. Timing is so important. If you have an idea that is before its time, which I have done multiple times, you get in this cycle where you can't actually get to where you need to go because people don't believe you yet. Don't get me wrong, they'll come around, but they won't believe you then, right? And sometimes you have to be lean and be very focused on what's in front of you, but see the larger picture and then aim everything that you have towards that goal of when it does pop up versus trying to make everything work for now. Because you know what? That larger idea that you had is probably the one that you really want to execute against, and you should. But make sure that you aren't throwing all your weight around it right in the beginning, because otherwise you're going to be completely burnt out, run out of money, and be gone by the time that actually matures for everyone else to see. And that's the hard part of being a domain expert. It's the hard part of being so involved in what you're doing that you see some foresights that not everyone gets the idea.
Excellent advice, Pelly. And timing is everything. You're right. Great presentation.
Also, you know, guys from BotFactory, we have known since being in the incubator together. We've known each other for so long, and it's not just them. A lot of the other entrepreneurs that were part of that group, some were NYU Poly or NYU alums. Some of them were just, you know, jumped in, and just awesome group of people. If you have a chance to be part of the incubators and understand how to leverage that network, totally do it.
I second your praise of Steve Kuan.
I'd like to jump in with a question, or at least a comment.
Sure.
My name is V, and so Pelly, my colleagues, alumni, friends, they call me V. So I hope you will as well. Appreciated your presentation as well as all the others. Your honesty, you know, about what it takes, and, you know, the sleepless months, couch surfing and everything else that you've done to get to this point in your career is definitely admirable. And I think we can all take inspiration from that. But I really wanted to just make a comment about what struck me in one of your slides, and that was your, I guess, intentional effort to integrate diversity and inclusion into your organization. That is it's good to see. I think it's an important component of all companies and businesses, particularly nowadays. And I just want to take a minute and commend you for it, because I was really pleased to see that. I hope we can see more of that as young startups start putting their feet out there and hiring and making it possible for lots of different people, LGBTQ plus, Blacks, women, you know, I think it's fantastic. So thank you for that.
Of course. No, the big thing here is that, you know, they're awesome people, and they're the ones who help make our company possible, right? And when you do this, it's not about quotas, it's not about whatever, it's just finding awesome people, and whoever those awesome people are, you accept it.
Great.
Yes, you really do embody the spirit of NYU and everything this university stands for. And we're all very proud to call you an NYU alum. So with that being said, our last speaker is going to be Ramon from AirOn Labs.
Hey everyone, hope all is well. My name is Ramon. Let me share my screen and I'll dig into AirOn Labs for you. Let me know when you can see my screen, okay?
We see it.
Perfect. All right. One second. Okay, guys. So, AirOn Labs started in 2020 in the middle of the global pandemic. Myself and my business partners were at home. We're all friends, and we decided what is it that we as a team could design and build together that could complement or assist people through the difficult times that they're having currently going through the pandemic, right? So our intention was to design something sleek, something impressionable, something that people would enjoy wearing and using. And what we came up with is the most difficult thing most persons have with the global pandemic is wearing a mask and feeling comfortable wearing a mask during their daily living. So we decided that we would create a high-end version of a mask, a high-end version of personal protective equipment in general that gives you a sense of sleek, sense of comfort, sense of wanting to wear this personal protective equipment. It becomes a part of, you know, you leaving the house instead of feeling frustrated about wearing these equipment. So just to give a summary of us as a unit, Aleem, Diallo, Kadeem, Ramon, myself, and Shane, we all went to Polytechnic, now NYU Tandon School of Engineering. We all were at the school at the same time. And our intention, like I said, was to design a product that was high-end and premium, that individuals could feel good about wearing and using this product. So how did it start? Well, it started 5 years prior to 2020 in 2015 at NYU Tandon School of Engineering at the innovation competition, where we came third for an idea called Integrated. Now, Integrated was a product line which was personal protective, but in regards to construction and keeping people cool in construction, wearing a hard hat. So for myself, I work at AECOM Tishman as a project manager. Aleem works at EY as a technologist. Diallo, right here to the left of Aleem, works as a firefighter, and Kadeem, who is on the far left of your screen, works as a consultant analyst at S&P Global. So before that, we were all at Poly, just trying to get through difficult classes, trying to learn what we need to learn to become engineers. But there was a spark created mainly by Aleem that we should try and learn more about innovation and business development, which we decided to come together as friends and join the innovation competition while dealing with all of the fun jazz of dealing with Poly and the classes. But it was helpful in dealing with us our time management skills, teaching us how to manage not only school but multiple tasks at the same time, communicate about a product. It was the linchpin, I would say, the key pivotal moment what kind of gave us the spark to want to become entrepreneurs. And just join that competition and the different phases that competition carried us through, from design development or conceptualization to actually designing a product, the iterative process of having a product, it not working, going through the motions of making it work, bringing it in front of investors, speaking not just about your product, but the numbers about the product. All of that came from, or all that background knowledge and that confidence to want to even start a company started with the innovation competition that Poly provided. And we also recognize that, yes, we didn't win the competition, but what we learned from the competition was more than just winning the competition, but it's the skill sets that was provided through that competition that kind of gave us the confidence to take on our new role. So what is our new role? 6 years later, we had a new teammate, which is right beside me, Shane, also from Poly, Tandon School of Engineering. And his reason, when he decided to reach out to us when we said we wanted to make this product, is because he remembered us in the competition working on Integrated at the time, which was for personal protective equipment, but this time it was for that was for a helmet. No, this one is personal protective equipment as it pertains to a mask. And one of the biggest product parts of our integrated line when we started at Tandon was the fan. So it was already technology that we were aware of, that we wanted to use. We understand that personal protective equipment is not fun to wear, and that's what causes people to not wear it, because it's not something you enjoy wearing. Just think of glasses before it became fashionable. No one wanted to wear glasses. People were embarrassed wearing glasses. No, it's not something that people are embarrassed wearing. And that's what we wanted to do with the mask, and also what we wanted to do with the helmet. So just an overview of our product. Our product, basically, we have what we call the air fusion mask. We use it for individuals who are interested in doing high-end exercise and still want to stay cool, want to stay comfortable, still want to be able to go to the grocery store, still want to be able to work in an office environment and still feel protected, but still feel comfortable. We want you to forget that you have a mask on. We want you to reach a point where you are wearing the mask, but you're also comfortable and happy wearing the mask. as best as we can, right? Does provide N95 Grid Protection. And I'll show you the next slide. We have both black and white gray versions of it. So basically this N95 filter, it sits on the inside of this fabric mesh. This piece right here clips in to the actual mask, and then it has adjustable straps. We thought about the adjustable straps. Everybody's face is different, shape different, different sizes. And we also have a sponge nose bridge that allows you to wear the mask comfortably throughout the day without feeling like it's restricting you from breathing and speaking. One thing we did recognize when we designed the mask is I find that on the highest speed, it also helps persons who have fogging in their glasses when they're wearing it. So that was an unintended consequence of having the fan there, but it definitely reduces the fogging when wearing the mask. And this is also one of the surprises we give to individuals when they wear a mask, is that we also have an LED light on it. And that it definitely, brings attention to, what's that you're wearing? That's interesting. And it definitely is a fashion statement that definitely brings attention, not just to the mask and its protection, but it's definitely a futuristic look that individuals definitely compliment us on. So what's next for Aeron? Well, like I said, our intention is to provide a product line of different personal protective equipment, different versions of masks, and just making the personal protective equipment space, lack of a better term, cool and interesting, right? So one of the products that we're working on and interested in is, one of the things lost through COVID is the ability to speak and see the person's face and a smile. And we understand that our product does provide comfort, but it doesn't carry you back to a space where you were comfortable and also able to smile at your coworker walking in, or also able to smile at someone walking across the road, to give confidence to things. So it's definitely, there's a loss that we're trying to gain back while staying protected. Next thing we're also working on is providing different color versions to the mask. So currently on our website, only the gray and black is available, but we are also working on providing multiple colors so that persons can also wear it with different different outfits that they have, right? So if you're interested in wearing blue, and when you add more colors, it adds more possibilities for people to wear it. It could be a sports team. Someone could wear it for the Giants. Someone could wear it for the Redskins. This is different teams that you could be wearing your mask for. So, and still be protected while visiting these sports venues. So we're launching this in the coming month, different colors. We're starting with the blue and the red, and then building out different color lines as pertains to our air fusion mask. And I just wanted to add in general that all the speakers that came before me definitely highlighted the most difficult part about being an entrepreneur is not only just having an idea, but executing on the idea. Execution of the idea, everyone has a good idea, but it's the ability to stay consistent on a vision that you had day in, day out, while still working or while still dealing with life. And that's I would think is the biggest and most difficult challenges. Even when you don't feel like you're making progress, you still have to do the reps. You still have to do the necessary steps to move forward, which is reach out, communicate, deal with the manufacturers. All those stuff doesn't get done by thinking it's going to get done, but just doing it even though you're not seeing the progress at the moment. And in a society where we're used to social media giving you instant gratification through alerts and likes. That's the most difficult part with developing a company. Is just, you know, you have a vision of the future that you believe people are going to enjoy, but in that moment between the vision actually being executed and you're, you know, trying to find funding to make this idea happen, you still have to have the courage in yourself to continue. Right? And one of the most interesting things that I enjoy about designing products is I actually use the products that I design. So I'm gonna show you a video. This is myself in the gym. I'm a big gym person. I enjoy going to the gym. It's something that I lost through COVID, and something that I was able to gain. Are you able to see the video? I'm just making sure. Are you still on the presentation?
I do not see the video.
Okay, no worries. Let me reshare my screen. So
I've been preparing myself all day for this.
And no, just something that I enjoy doing, to create stress relief.
And I have strength from within.
And it's something that
and I
I lost through COVID,
to the core.
and being able to wear the mask back in the gym,
but I gotta go.
Get back to a
and this
routine
pain
of working out.
Temporary.
I know
this
myself had that pain
last
and
forever.
difficulty, and I'm sure they
I'm putting in the hard work today,
did also
and
have
it's gonna pay off tomorrow. Because every day I get closer to my goal, and I'm a warrior,
so just having
and I will
a
never
product
surrender.
that you
Because
design,
this is my time.
that you went
This
through
is
the
exactly
pain of
who I
solving
want
for
to
yourself.
become. I do not have time to slow down because weakness
is definitely
is not
one of
my
the
friend.
key
And I
components
am
of one
motivated, and I am
At the
strong.
end of the day,
I am a lion. My
entrepreneurs,
success will
being
reign.
an
My voice
entrepreneur
will be heard.
is
I will
a
climb any
service-based
mountain.
industry.
I
It's
am
serving
in control.
and
My
solving
time is
problems.
now. Every
The
day I
moment
wake
you
up more
focus on solving
motivated.
a pain
Every day I
point
go closer to
that
my
you usually have, or people have, you find that you get rewarded through it by developing a good company. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions anyone has.
Very cool product. Again, no pun intended.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for making it. All right, questions.
I don't want to be the only one to ask questions.
You're
Frank,
motivating everyone else, Frank.
Okay, a quick question, please. I notice an accent.
Yes.
I happen to be an immigrant also myself when I graduated in '68 from Poly. The thing that impressed me, of course, and all through the years since I've been involved, is the diversification, the combination of different nationalities, different ethnic background. It was completely irrelevant to our growth. In other words, it didn't matter where you're from. Can you tell me your experience in that regard?
Poly or Tandon is, I think, the best school that the world and even the US should model their product line or companies off. Because one thing that I recognized going to Tandon was just when you're late in the night when we were all studying, everyone was from different backgrounds. I have friends who are Muslim from Bensonhurst. I'm from Jamaica personally. My family's from Jamaica. I have friends who are Russian. I have friends who are Pakistani. But at 11 o'clock in the night, all moms call at that time. And all of them are asking you, why aren't you home, in different languages? And some of them I couldn't understand the language because I didn't speak Russian or I didn't speak Arabic, but I could feel the energy behind the question. It was, why aren't you home? When are you coming home? And we're like, well, we kind of have this exam that's coming up. No, I'm not out doing anything crazy. I'll be home soon. And that understanding gives you a connection to people way beyond what you look like, way beyond where you're from, because you recognize a mom is still a mom, regardless of which island or which country you're from. And there's so many moments like that you get at being a Tandon that I don't think you necessarily get elsewhere. And it's a shame because it definitely really connects you to people. For instance, I went to an Albanian wedding recently, I don't have any friends from Albania in Jamaica, but because I went to Poly, I met friends from Albania, and it was just really remarkable just to see all the men stand up in front of the reception hall and shake your hand coming into the reception hall, right? Like, welcome to, the family, welcome to our family get together. And it's just interesting, and it's just a lovely experience to be able to have that experience. And Tandon gave us that experience because we all went to school. We were all in the trenches trying to get through physics 3 together or physics 2 together, finishing assignments together. And so that kind of bonds you in ways that you can't get with money or accolades. That's just something that definitely, still stays with me till this day. Frank, you're muted.
You're muted, Frank.
I just wanted to thank you. I mean, that's the same experience, and that's the attributes, one of the attributes of Poly that I cherish a lot. And I was very concerned in the thank God it didn't happen, but I'm very concerned in the merger that getting the two schools together. But that's a different issue. Thank you so much for your presentation.
I appreciate it.
Are there other questions? All right, so quick question that I have is, so you've got 5 people there. It's very, very difficult to have 5 people rowing together.
Right.
How is this working? And if so, how are you accomplishing this?
Okay, so we were friends from prior to starting our business. So we play golf together, we did paintball together, we snowboard together. So that eases it a little bit, just being able to be friends. And if we could stomach being friends for 6-7 years, the dive to want to just start a business together was a little bit easier because it's someone that I've already accepted you as someone I cherish and want to grow with throughout my life, right? It definitely helps that we come from a technical background. So most persons, we think before we act. Most times we genuinely also have business backgrounds in the sense that we all went and became professionals in our own respect, right? So I became a project manager at Tishman Construction. Liam became a technologist at EY. So we've been accustomed to the corporate standard of conducting meetings, being on time for meetings, setting meeting agendas. So that definitely helped. It was much more difficult in the sense of obviously finding time to work on a product together at the end of the day. But it's something that we genuinely enjoyed. At first, it started off as just time for us to meet with each other and talk with each other about the day, how it went. And then it became more serious. It's like, okay, well, we have all this skill set, we have all this horsepower here. Let's design a product. We started this 5 years ago. We stayed friends, but we went into our respective industries. And like I said, building skills. I built project management skills, organization skills. All of us developed different skills along the way working at these companies. Let's now take all the skill that we've learned and let's use it to design a product. We have a problem. We have identified a problem. We went to engineering school to solve problems. That's why we liked engineering school. Here's an opportunity to solve a problem. Let's solve the problem. And that unified, we want to solve this problem, we want to bring a product, kind of just made it much easier dealing with the difficulties of starting a business with different teammates.
Very interesting. So your culture is extremely strong. And that's one of the most important things in any company. As you scale, you know exactly who you're trying to hire and why. And that's
absolutely. And but one of the things that when we started our business, like, who do we like as a company, right? Like, every great individual aspired to be somebody, right? LeBron at one point aspired to be Michael Jordan, right? And then you come and develop into your own flavor of what you're doing. So when I thought about great companies, we all aspire to be Apple. How would Apple do something? How would Disney, who's transcend different generations, do something? And the main thing that we came back with is attention to detail. Attention to detail, right? Like that's the difference between the great companies and the ones that are not great, or is they take the time to pay attention to detail. They take the time to not only cultivate a product, but cultivate a community behind the product, right? They're making the product breathe its life of its own, right? When you have an iPhone in your hand, there's a feeling behind it different than just the tech. It's the feeling of sophistication, class. It's organized, it's ordered, right? Disney has the same thing when you talk about princesses. It brings back these feelings and it evokes an emotion, right? So that's where our linchpin was like, okay, yeah, we could build a product, but what is it that you want the person to feel when they have your product? I want you to feel like you're wearing something that you're safe, that you feel sophisticated in, you feel that it was well built, right? And so that's what kind of drove us to, even when we wanted to release it early, we didn't release it early, not just to release it, but like wait the time to release it and make it a product that people can, aspire and like.
Thank you very much. We've reached the end of our showcase today. It was truly amazing. It was so refreshing. And I thank everybody who came, all the amazing entrepreneurs who were here today, the amazing staff at NYU, the attendees, everybody contributed to make this amazing. So Alexandra, do you have any, or V, do you have any closing?
Yes, thank you, Brad, and our alumni companies for a fantastic showcase. This concludes our program. We hope you will join us for our Sustainability Happy Hour at 5 p.m. today to learn from our Tandon faculty about whiskey and the NYU's Urban Future Lab, a center for clean technology and innovation. We thank all of our alumni attendees for participating and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Alexandra.